This is Arsycast, and our special guest today is Yasmin Akhavan.
Well. Hi, Yas.
Hi.
Welcome to the show, and welcome back to LA.
Thank you.
You live in New York now, as has been documented, but it's always good to have you back, and I'm so glad you got to do this. So we start off, as I told you, with everyone gets the same starting question, so I'm going to ask it to you now, which is, what is your favorite color?
Pink.
Pink. Okay, you had that ready to go. Why pink?
I don't know. I like light pink, like baby pink. I think because, I don't know, I think because as a kid I always liked it. It was just like, felt like me. And so, I like a lot of other colors a lot, but I always first think pink's my favorite color because it always has been.
So from a young age, she likes the typical
little,
bright Barbie pink shade, or
no, more like light pink, like pastel pink almost.
Nice.
Maybe because I had a lot of Barbies.
Yeah. And so still to this day, is it does it cause an emotion or sensation in you when you see it, or?
Yeah, and recently I've started buying pink clothes. I never used to wear pink, but I recently got a pink top, and I like wearing the color pink now too.
Oh yeah,
I think it looks good with my
Do you think that wearing pink demonstrates a certain attribute or a certain
about
mood?
me?
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes me feel happy and like skipping along.
Do you think it causes others to do you think it causes the same emotion in other people too?
I don't know. I don't think a lot of people like pink that much.
Right.
Maybe they do.
Well, I also know that oftentimes people will make a whole point out of wearing black or the opposite of pink.
Yeah.
But that was never you. Even though you're wearing
I'm
black
wearing
now.
black now. Yeah.
But you're not afraid of vibrant colors like that.
No. I do wear a lot of black and beiges, neutrals too. But recently, because I'm starting to get more into colors, pink has been one that I've been really into. I also like this color a lot. It's orangey.
Oh yeah.
I like orange a lot too.
Almost terracotta kind of.
Like the color of the juice kind of.
Oh yeah.
But more pink than that.
Nice. What and that's a cool. Where'd you get that clip?
I got it from a pop-up shop in New York.
Nice, very cool.
Thanks.
Is it like a specialty shop for
Clips?
hair clips like
yeah,
that?
they had a lot of hair clips.
Huh.
The girl made them.
How do you know when it's time to buy a new hair clip? Or at least how many do you buy per month?
0.2. I buy them every 5 months. You should always have a hair clip on hand, but so I have two. I have one that's black and one that's brown, and it's they're big, so it's good to keep all my hair up. And I have a little medium-sized one, but I lose them really easily. So sometimes I have to go and look for my hair clips and collect them again because I forget I have so many. This is the first one I've ever bought that was funky and more of a thing. The other ones are always more functional.
Well, that was gonna be my next question. Is how do you know when it's time to buy a statement hair clip?
And
do people do it? How
a lot of people wear these ones, the checkered ones. I think it's good to have a couple. My friend has a cute butterfly one that's literally in the shape of a butterfly. But then you don't want to keep reusing the same statement one because then it's I don't know. I'll probably get another one in a few months. Wait a while. I don't think I need one yet.
And is a hair clip accessorized? How often do you wear a hair clip to know when to accessorize it onto an outfit? Because the closest thing I can think of in terms of the typical guy's clothing, for example, is maybe a pocket square or but that also serves a function. It actually clips your hair.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think of the equivalent for maybe cool framed glasses or something for a guy.
Yeah, with any statement accessory, I think you have to be scarce with it. You can't wear it all the time.
Right.
So I wore this work recently, and I was oh, I'm gonna wear the hair clip today. It was so I'll plan my outfit around what because I'm I want to wear the clip. So
right.
Yeah.
And how fragile are hair clips? Because I feel like
They're very fragile.
every hair clip I've seen is always missing like at
It's
least
always,
2 teeth.
they're very fragile. This one looks fine, but I've broken a lot in the day.
Is there a way to
prevent that?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I put it always in my bag, and then it gets like squished in my bag. If you put it in like your coat pocket, you won't get it squished.
Okay, so it's usually when it gets like crushed.
Yeah.
It's like because it overlaps. I guess it like when you press it too much.
Yeah.
Oh,
They break
snaps.
really easily though. Obviously, like, yeah. I also get like cheap ones usually from like CVS or something.
Has someone yet marketed like the indestructible hair clip yet?
I don't think so.
Oh.
They just marketed the indestructible tights though.
There's that don't get like the tear down them. Interesting.
I think they're called like sheer techs or something, but it's like you can buy like sheer tights now that genuinely like you like the commercials like you put your hand through it and like it doesn't break.
Is that something you'd be interested in purchasing?
Yeah, but they're like $60.
Right.
So like.
Yeah, tell me about like the economy of tights because I also there's a couple of occasions where I've seen you where
I don't have any.
Where you don't have tights and you like need to buy tights immediately because you're going to like somewhere that night and the tights that you don't have. I'm trying to figure out like how often do you buy tights? Why do you need tights? When do you know you need tights?
So I have one pair that I wear most of the time that are like not fully opaque, but so they're not sheer, but they're not opaque. You need an opaque pair, you need a medium, and then you need a sheer black pair, and then sometimes you need just like nude sheer, and then like usually like and then the very sheer ones though like rip really easily. I go to like CVS to get them, or like but they don't always have them, and then that's really stressful.
Is it usually like you get what you pay for with tights? Like is it like how high up is the cost of tights worth it?
Well, that's the thing. Like, if I went to CVS and got a pair of tights, it would be like $12 probably, and they rip really easily. So I'd have to buy 5 to like justify like getting the indestructible ones. But maybe it's worth it if I can just have those forever and they genuinely won't tear.
Right. So okay.
I was talking to someone recently about washing tights, and I don't think anyone washes their tights.
Right.
Which is weird because they go on your feet, so you would think that you would. But it was like someone I met at a party, and I was talking about like my tights that I was wearing, and I was like, yeah, like I was gonna wash them, and I didn't, but I just said that, or I don't know. We were talking about washing them, and they were like, you wash your tights, and I was like, no, I don't. I just said that, like you don't either, and she was like, no, I don't wash my tights, and I was like, oh.
Aren't tights always like hanging off of like bathroom like doors and like sinks and stuff?
Maybe people hand wash them.
Maybe I think that's probably what.
Yeah.
I mean,
but because they're not like cloth, I think people think they don't really absorb like stench.
Well, they are something.
They are. They are. They probably should be washed.
Right. The other. Now that we're talking about hair clips and tights, something that also came across when I was moving into this place was how many hair ties you have and how many of those I've seen. Like, of all the hair ties that I've seen, maybe 2% of them have actually been a fully intact, like strong like band. The rest are always like broken and like kind of like
have the little like thing. Yeah. This one's fine, but yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Well, if I were to pull this hard enough, it would do that, like that already. Like you can see, it's like starting to do like that.
Right. And I guess those you usually buy like 20 for like $1.
You have to, and those I have to restock I'd say like once a year I buy like a new set of hair ties, because by the end of the year they just they just disappear.
Right. Have you noticed anything specifically about when you moved from LA to New York about the different kinds of things you have to focus on in terms of accessories and fashion?
I mean, I think just like doing more, like, because people dress so cool there, so it was like I can't just like throw on like my biker shorts and I can't just put like athleisure wear here and like walk around and feel like fine. It was like, no, I have to like make an outfit out of everything. So it's like I've always liked oversized clothes, and like it's nice because I feel like in New York a lot of girls wear like oversized clothes. It's like the baggy pants, like cool like oversized shirt, and, like and long boots. Jacket, like boots. I've noticed a lot of girls, like they do like hair clips or like glasses or like a big thing or like just more jewelry. So like big necklaces, like chunky rings, like things like that. Um, yeah, and layers.
In New
It's
York.
like, yeah, just like layers. Even like when you don't necessarily need them, just like having a layer is like a thing. And I just feel like, yeah, I just feel like people like now it's like even if I'm just going for a walk or like going to the grocery store, I feel like I have to like look cool and like it's almost like walking around in New York is like an event. Like it's like I have to get ready for something.
Yeah.
Which like no one really cares because like obviously like you can look like whatever and like no one will really like bat an eye at you. But like everyone looks cool, so you kind of want to be part of it and like
Right.
also feel like you look cool.
But you're also used to that because you grew up in Paris from when you were in the 6th grade on. You went to middle school and high school in Paris. So I'm sure it's similar energy in terms of always being aware of like what's trendy, what's fashionable, what to wear. I remember from learning from, when we were in Atlanta and you were in Paris, I would hear sort of like secondhand your struggle to like make sure you had the right like down coats and like the in style things. So
Yeah, but that was different because it was like a mix of like high school and also like I would get anxiety about not looking good enough. Like it was like
right.
I would get really, and then when I graduated high school and like went to college in the U.S. and then every time I went back to visit for like Christmas and stuff, I would like feel that like rush again of like I have to look good, I have to wear this thing. Oh my god, I don't look good enough, whatever. Whereas like in New York, it's like you can be experimental and like like look however you want because people don't, there's so many people that they don't really notice you, so you don't have to look good. It's more like you want to. Whereas I felt like growing up there, like I had to.
Right.
Especially because it was like high school. Like I remember just like being like I was like 16 and like I wore like so much like eyeliner. I guess everyone did this in high school. Like I wore so much eyeliner and I wore like booties to school, like high heel like booties to class. And like I don't even wear booties now to work, and I'm 25. Like it's just like it was so weird and like because like everyone dressed so well and like would. Like I remember like in 7th grade, like all the girls had like the Marc Jacobs bag. And it was the one that was like canvas, like a tote, and it had like Marc by Marc Jacobs like that. And I just remember I never bought one, but I was like, oh wow, like everyone has this bag. And like and everyone bought it because everyone had it. It's definitely weird.
And BlackBerry was similar too, right? Like,
yeah.
If you didn't have BlackBerry Messenger, you weren't.
You weren't like part of the thing, yeah.
Right.
Was that not a thing in Atlanta? BlackBerry Messenger or in the U.S.?
No, well, not to me. In our equivalent of that was like
AIM.
Yeah, AIM big here and MSN Messenger.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to phones, it was like the Motor, like the Razor was a big thing, like flip phones and like slick, like cool, like camera phones. Camera phones and like the iTunes phones were like the big like events where you could like, add like an Outkast song as your ringtone.
Yeah.
I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
It was more like who's got the coolest like gadget of a phone, not who's like
on the circle, in the circle, or whatever,
circle,
yeah.
Exactly. Who's in the network.
Yeah. Yeah. BBM was how you found out who was dating because like you would put the person you were dating in your name. So it'd be like Yasmin, like whatever, and then like person. Like
really?
Yeah, like that. So like I remember like I would be on the metro like going to school and I'd like open BBM and I remember distinctly once like 2 friends like posted at the same time, updated their BBM names, and I won't say their names, but it was like, oh, like blank, heart, blank, and then like 2 minutes later, like that person updated their status like blank, heart, blank, and I was like, and I remember texting my friend like, are they dating? And she was like, dude, yeah, apparently, and I'm like, what? Like since when? She's like, I don't know, since like yesterday, I guess, and it was like, yeah.
So that was like the Facebook official before Facebook official, really.
And then like it was like a popularity contest too, because it was like a matter of how many people you had in your name and in your status. So like I would have like Yasmin, Hart, like Danya, Gabby, Helia, like et cetera, and then like as my status would be like my second tier of people that I had decided to put in my thing. So when people like looked at my profile, they would like see my name, my picture, and like 5 people that I deemed important enough to like be in my name. And then it was like a whole thing like I put you in my name, but like you didn't put me in your name, like that kind of stuff.
I had no idea.
Yeah. It was really weird.
Wow.
It was really weird.
Yeah, well, I guess again, like trying to think of the equivalent here, I guess it was like, we were deep. My generation, like we were much deeper, I think, into Facebook
Yeah.
at that time. It was all about like the wall, like the Facebook wall, like, you know, obviously in a relationship, single, it's
Yeah.
complicated, all of that stuff. But then it was like the poking was a whole thing for some reason, and then like people tagging each other in photos, like that was sort of our vocabulary.
Us too. Like we're really into Facebook, but I guess Facebook was more like how many likes you got and like how many comments you got, less about like actual communication. It was like by that point it kind of had turned into like, oh, like I got like 100 likes on my profile picture, like that meant something.
Right.
Whereas like, yeah, like people weren't posting like regular updates about who they were dating and who their friends were on Facebook. It was more on like BBM.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm remembering now there's a weird trend also in our zone where there was a picture that one of my friends had of like her friends in like Canada, and she was in it, and then somehow all of us and her Canada friends all just started commenting like a major thread on the same picture for no reason. It went up like 1,400 comments on one picture.
Actually, for like that many?
Actually 1,400 comments, but just like
bantering
back and forth.
And you didn't know them.
No, and so every time you knew, like, you know, so and so commented on that one picture, it was like one of the people from that group. So, and then of course that would die down, and then like a year and a half later, it'd be like someone would write bump, and then it would come back. So yeah, well, that's a whole thing. But yeah, so
it's so funny.
I guess these days, I'm trying to think, like it's all gotten so out of hand these days that it's like it's kind of not even like.
I don't even know what people are communicating on now and like what they're using.
Yeah,
like TikTok,
Snapchat maybe is like similar. The Snapchat's also like hanging by a thread, like. But
Snapchat's like a similar thing where you can tell who's date. Well, when I had Snapchat, it was like the new one where you could see best friends on Snapchat. Do you remember that?
Yeah, of course.
So it was like you could see like, oh, are they a thing? Because it would be like two people from like different friend groups, like a guy and a girl, let's say, and it was like, oh, like he's her number one best friend on Snapchat, and they. Like you connect the dots that they're not friends, so they're obviously flirting on Snapchat. And now they still have like the streaks on Snapchat where you have like, you know, if you have like streaks with people. So it's like, I don't know, like you have like that's what people are obsessed with now. It's like, oh, we have like a 300-day streak, we can't like lose it. But then it's like, yeah, I mean, I like Snapchat a lot actually.
I actually never got into Snapchat. I'm sad.
I used to be very into it.
Yeah,
but not anymore. None of my friends have it anymore.
Right. So outside of the apps and in social media, what in New York, how would you describe like the social life in New York these days? Like in terms of meeting people or hanging out with friends, like what's the report?
Well, I don't know. I feel like things in New York are like much more like spontaneous. So it's like it would be like Friday. No, my friend, like I'll make a plan with a friend on Friday, and we'll be like, okay, let's meet at like 7. And there's like a notion of like, I'm not going to make any more plans for the night because that plan might turn into like 5 other plans. Like we have drinks and then we might meet up with like our other friends who are here. And then like that might turn into like another thing there. Whereas like in LA, I felt like it was like you had to, you know, to plan your night to a T. And like if you're not doing something by like 8 or 9, like you're probably not going to be doing something. Or whereas like New York, I feel like one time I was at my home at like 11 and my friends called me like, let's go to the box. And it was like, it's like a club. And I was like, I didn't know, I'm too tired. But like my night could start at 11 on a whim if I wanted it to, which is really nice. But for me personally, it's just like texting my friends, like, what are you guys up to? And like, just like saying, and then kind of seeing what happens. In terms of like how parties, it seems like pop up is like, just like you get a text from a friend a few weeks before. I think Facebook events are still kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And like mass, or like my friend recently just posted an Instagram story to like his close friends and was like, hey, I'm having people over today. Like everyone should come. It makes sense because like if it's on your close friends, you're already telling the people you want to know they'll see it because it's on Instagram.
Well, that's another thing because when I got rid of Facebook like 5 years ago at this point, the only thing I knew that I would miss out on was the party invitations. Yeah. Otherwise, like there was no other reason to keep Facebook as far as I was concerned. and it's true that it did translate into me sort of like, be like, oh, I guess, so and so had a birthday party that like I didn't know about, or maybe I was out of town or something, or didn't, no one, I didn't see it. But it's also something that I've told you about also, which is frustrating, I think, when it comes to LA, is even if you have confirmed dates and plans and events, LA is set up in a way where people are it's such an effort to like travel and to get places that like you could have plans to be like, oh, like we're supposed to be like, in Los Feliz for like a 9:00, like party, and you'll be in like Culver City with like enough of your friends to be like, oh, like are we really gonna go to Los Feliz right now? It's like, no. And so it's like the flake rate is just completely like out of hand in LA. But that's nice what you say about New York, and I think that's true, is not only can you sort of build a plan out of nothing, but people are always sort of at the ready to like
people will
snowball
come
with you. Exactly.
People will literally come.
Yeah.
That's the thing I realized too, is like, yeah, it happens so many times in LA where like my friend and I were like, yeah, we're both going out tonight. Let's keep each other posted later where we are, and we check in later. They're in West Hollywood. I'm in Santa Monica, which is not even that far from each other. We're not going to meet up. But like in New York, it's like, okay, let's check in later. We genuinely check in later. Even if it's like one person's in like Bushwick and the other one's in like Manhattan somewhere.
Yeah.
It will happen. Like they'll come. They'll be like, yeah, we said we'd hang out. I'm going to come hang out with you. Like it's much more committal. But another thing that I remember we talked about with the whole like Facebook event thing is that if the person making the Facebook event really cares about you coming, they'll still text you about it. If it's someone important enough that like you really don't want to miss it, they'll text you to come, and like that's kind of like the way that goes. But I agree, that's the only thing that with like that kind of stuff that's a thing. But yeah, it's very frustrating about LA that the culture is so, everyone's so okay with flaking last minute.
Right. It's
like, it's so accepted, and like I get it, but like it's not really okay to flake last minute all the time. Like it's fine to do it sometimes if you're like not feeling well or like something came up. But in other cases, you can genuinely tell if you'll be able to make it or not. And at least just tell the person like, hey, like I'll be kind of far away when your party starts. I might not be able to make the trek, but hopefully I'll be able to. Like I'll keep, like,
yeah,
it's just tough.
Yeah, and well, sliding now back into the Paris of it all, because you visit Paris at least once a year now, and so when you go there, you still see your high school friends, and so just for that little bit, do you find that whenever you visit Paris, there exists still that same sort of social infrastructure of like people getting together and want to see each other, and that it can snowball like it does in New York?
Kind of. I have a small group that I keep in touch with, so I see them, but like we do more like we plan a dinner. It doesn't really snowball like that, not really. Also because whenever I go home, I see like I'm staying with mom, and like it's not like I don't know, I don't really go out that much with friends anymore, but it has happened where like I'll be out with people and then they'll text like, oh, like two of our friends are actually at like this guy's house, and it's like a guy that I haven't seen in like ages, and I'm like, let's go. And then we'll go and we'll end up hanging out with like the randomest people from high school that I would have never thought. That actually happened like the last time I was there. I think we ran into some friends, like not even friends, like people I didn't really know that well, but then they were like, oh, let's hang out. Like that, yeah, I guess it's true where it's like, oh, we're going here and like we're gonna go meet up with this person, so then you're like, okay, let's come along. But it's not to the degree of New York, because New York is like something else. It's like people are bouncing around so fast and so much. But also like I have more friends in New York at this point than I do in Paris. My friends in Paris are pretty like chill. Like so it's not like, but it is funny that like going at Christmas, for example, or like in the middle of the summer, there's usually a lot of people from high school there. So sometimes I will find myself in situations where, like, I'm at a random dinner with, like, a bunch of people that I haven't seen in ages.
You'll find yourself in situations.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on from Los Angeles and New York and Paris, let's talk about, like, the rest of the world. Because, travel is something that I love to do, and I know that you love to do. And we got to take a great trip to Japan together right before the pandemic, and that was amazing. But Actually, I haven't checked in with you in a while about this. Like, where do you want to travel? Where do you like traveling to, and where do you want to travel to? Because I know that that's a big thing that you love to do.
So it is a big thing I love to do, but it's not like it's not something I feel like I do that much. Like mostly because it costs a lot of money. It's really hard to plan. Ideally, like I don't know. I really want to go to like Mexico City.
Mm.
I really that's one of my places that like I think I'm gonna end up going in the next like year. I'm probably gonna try to make a trip to Mexico City. Then there's like big trips where I'm like I'd love to go to like Thailand, but that feels like far in the future. It's hard because like there are a lot of places I want to go. There's a lot of places I feel like I've gone in the last like year that I really liked in the U.S. especially, or like the last couple of years.
Like what?
Like I liked going to Denver and going to like the Red Rocks Amphitheater, for example. Like that was really cool.
Did I tell you that about the Red Rocks Amphitheater concert that's happening in August that I want to go to? Trey Parker and Matt Stone are doing a 25th anniversary South Park celebration concert at Red Rocks.
Well, because it's also based in Colorado, right? Is that why they're doing it there?
Exactly.
It's so cool. It was like such an amazing experience.
Well, you've also been to other cities in Spain and Italy, and
yeah.
Do you want to revisit those anytime soon?
Yeah, I'm going to Spain this summer.
Nice.
Yeah. Thinking like Barcelona, maybe like Marbella, but like TBD. But definitely going to Spain. No, I've been to a lot of places in Spain and Italy. Those are like probably the two countries I've been to the most cities in.
Right.
And like obviously the US, but like I've been to more places there than France even.
Right.
But yeah, I think I now like I don't know. I feel like I guess I haven't traveled like that much recently. I did go to Paris last summer. Christmas, I guess we were here.
Mm-hmm.
But like during COVID, it was nice. I was traveling like to around California, like went to like Catalina and like Big Bear and like Zion National Park and like Utah, like.
Right. You've recently done a lot more like camping, national park trips.
National park and like within the U.S. trips, like.
Yeah. Well, you know that I've said that like I think a road trip across the U.S. should be like mandatory for
yeah.
like.
Savannah, I did Savannah.
Oh yeah.
That was really fun.
We haven't talked about Savannah. It's very charming. It's beautiful, isn't it?
I loved it. It was so pretty. Yeah, I did that. Like, yeah, I feel like I've gone to a lot of places in the U.S. recently. But yeah, I definitely want to go to Mexico City. I want to go to, like, Colombia in the near future.
Colombia?
Like, for me, it's like, yeah, Colombia. For me, it's like, I can only really, like, handle, like, one thing at it. Like, it's like I can't think about, like, too many places I want to go. I want to focus on, like, one or two and, like, make those happen, and then I'll focus on the next one.
Mm.
I do like traveling, but it's just hard to do all the time. I don't have that much money. Like, I don't have, like, that much money. Like, I can't. Like, New York's expensive to just, like, exist there, let alone, like, save enough to travel.
Mm.
Like, Coachella, like, drained my bank account. Like, from now until the summer, I'm basically saving up again.
Right.
Like, it just feels like a constant, like, draining, saving thing. So, like, I can't travel that much.
Hey everyone, it's Arsycast. I hope you're enjoying this episode. If you are, remember to subscribe and hit the bell notification so that you can get notified every time there's a new video on the channel. Enjoy part 2.
I found that travel is a great, way to talk to people and to get to know other cultures. And like what I've talked about with you, for me personally, I found that getting into things like food from other cultures and photography has been a great motivation for me to pick a place that I want to visit. And I told you also about getting more into Anthony Bourdain's work and how he, was able to find the commonality between different cultures through stuff like food. So that's something that I wanted to sort of do on a personal level, but also it's made me think largely, because one thing that I've noticed in the TV industry that we talk about is that audiences love escapism, or that they're seeking escapism given the state of the world, which regardless of how you feel about that, it points to a feeling that it seems that people like going on journeys and going on adventures still, and that's still something that they crave. And so thinking largely about like whether it's travel or whether it's, different things that we have at our disposal, I think music is another great way people escape, and movies and stuff. I'm curious, like, are there other factors in addition to travel that you think connect other cultures and other people together?
Yeah, I mean, like, on the escapism thing, I feel like something I do... Okay, so I do like travel, but I also do like staying put. I like being at home. Like, I like my routine. Sometimes travel stresses me out because, like right now I'm here and, like, I'm really excited to, like, go back to New York and, like, grocery shop and, like, have my thing. And, like, I don't want to go anywhere for a while. Which I know is, like, somewhat, like, of a, like, privileged thing to say because I have traveled a lot, like, in my youth. Or, like, when I was like, living in Paris.
In your
like,
youth.
Or, like, even living in Paris, like, I got to travel all over Europe and, like,
right.
I've seen a lot of cities and stuff, and so, like, I'm very, very lucky. And so, like, now I really see the value in, like, just not all the time staying in the same city, but, like, I really like staying in the same city for a long time. I think, like, another way to connect with people... Did you say food, too? Did we already say... You said food.
Well, that was the big Bourdain thing.
Yeah.
Is through food and conversations about food, you can learn a lot about a culture.
Definitely. I don't know. I think it's more of, like, an attitude thing rather than, like, activities. Like, it's, like, I think, like, for me, like, my favorite thing is, like, yeah, like, going out to eat to restaurants with friends. That's, like, my favorite thing to do. Love restaurants. Yeah, like, going out to, like, a different type of cuisine that you haven't tried before, like, trying new things. But, like, I also just think, like, there's like, a lot of people who don't, like, ask questions necessarily to people that they don't know. And, like, I think it's more of, like, an attitude thing of, like, oh, this is someone I don't know that well. Let me, like... Because, like, culture is more than, like, people who live in different countries, right? Like, culture is, like, someone could have lived in LA their whole life and, like, have a different culture to you in terms of, like, the way who their families are and how they raise them and, like, how they live their life, you know? Like, I see culture as, like, the way people, like, live their lives, and that's, like, beyond just the country that they're from. Like, I feel like we as a family have, like, Persian culture in our family. We always have, like, somewhat like European, I guess, culture, American culture, like, but it kind of blends into this one, like, us culture, you know? So I feel like, I don't know, I feel like that's why I get, it's hard when people talk about, like, a big country's culture, because, like, even within that country, there's, like, little cultures, then within those little ones, there's little ones, you know? And I think, like, having an open, curious mindset and, like, not being closed off to talking to people that you don't know is important, and people who don't come from the same background as you is important to, like, get to know people and cultures and stuff. I mean, aside from that, like, definitely, like, food and music and arts and things like that. But yeah, I think it's more of, like, an attitude, behavior thing.
Yeah. You talk about different genres and cultures influencing each other to create new ones. That's literally what music is literally. Especially when you have things like SoundCloud, where people are, like, sampling things from all over the world and making new sounds with it. Or,
like, think about, like, yeah, like, the culture in Brooklyn versus in, like, Upper East Side Manhattan. Like,
right.
Those are also, like, it's different because, like, very on a minute scale, but it's still different. Like, there's a different way people dress and talk and look and feel and what they do, and, like, you know, the way they live their lives is very different based on the area they live in.
Yeah. How much do you think culture is dictated by media like that?
A lot.
Right.
A lot. It's dictated by, like the architecture, like, what's there. Like, I feel like I think a big part of, like, Bushwick culture is, like, music, and that's because there's, like, warehouse clubs there. So a lot of it's, like, what's there, what's been built in those different neighborhoods or countries, or, like, the history of the architecture there, I think is, like, a huge part of it. And then I think media, for sure, is responsible for, like, the evolution of that, because you wouldn't even know about what those cultures are without people, like, posting about them or sharing them or writing movies or TV about them, and, you know?
Well, the reason I'm asking also is because you hear this term culture war all the time, that the United States is in the middle of a culture war, which it is. But it's interesting because it points to how I think the two main sides, the left and the right in America, view the role of culture. If you ask the average, conservative in America, their idea of culture is traditions and rituals and familiar patterns and familiar doing the same thing with the same people for annual Christmas celebrations or annual whatever celebrations. It's it's like in Fiddler on the Roof, tradition. It's how long can you maintain the same culture and retain it. Whereas if you basically consider the mechanisms of Hollywood or the music industry as part of like the malleable left side of America, their view on culture is the exact opposite. That culture is always changing and is always, you always want to be on the forefront of like how things are evolving, how things are seeking to make new cultures and blossoming, and then how we need to let go of the past, out with the old, in with the new. And so I think fundamentally that is sort of the root of the culture war, really, is people who see the role of the media as either they're responsible for maintaining what the American identity is versus challenging the American identity in every way. So I wonder, because you work in a very specific sector with that, and largely is advertising, really, your sector. So do you find that the tools that you use, and I want you to also talk more about like what exactly your work is and how you sort of approach it, but at what point in the conversations about branding and strategy do you start to, does it come against like, culture, identity, trends, all that?
No, sorry, back to your point, like that's interesting because I feel like when you're thinking about like audiences, like I work in more website stuff, but my previous job was more like campaign stuff. You're automatically, whether you think you are or not, thinking of liberals. Like you're not thinking of conservatives as your target audience most of the time, unless you're working on something specific. Like it's like when you think of culture, a lot of people I think associate it with the younger liberal audience. I can imagine that definitely comes out in the media that's popular today, which is why there's a culture war, which is why one side feels like maybe left out or like left behind or whatever,
or under attack.
I
guess I wonder, like, how are those conversations in terms of website building or brand strategy? How much does these cultural terminology factor into it? Like, where if you're catering to a certain audience or demographic, like what you were saying about how, you're usually keeping mostly the liberal woke audiences in mind when a new campaign. So
yeah, for us, it's for my job, it's very specific because we work on websites. I design websites, and we usually are working on like finance websites or it's usually like bigger companies. So like it's not like we are thinking of trends. I think if I worked more in campaign, I would be looking more at trends. But because I'm in product and like people still use websites, like trends is more like, I remember at my last agency, we did like, I think something related to like AR, and we were thinking about like, what are like, I don't even know if this was an actual project or like a thought exercise or whatever, but it was like where are people likely to scan a billboard for AR? And it's like, is a subway like a good place for that? Like the metro, like the subway, because you're walking so fast, is anyone gonna really stop and like do that? But maybe if you're waiting at like a bus stop, it is like weird things like that where it's like, what are people's behaviors on the day to day and like how are they changing? Whereas like for me, it's less like that, but it's more like, okay, finance clearly is, most finance websites are a little outdated, especially if they're bigger companies. And we're dealing with like Mint and like whatever, these big finance apps that have like infiltrated like mobile app, and they're getting people like really financially organized, and like
I use Mint.
Yeah, I use Mint too, and it's like it's really good, and like NerdWallet, and like the nature of most people's online behaviors have changed in the sense that like people don't read long form articles. They read like usually bite-sized things, or they'll read threads, like Reddit threads. Like that's still me too. Like it's crazy how much that behavior hasn't really changed, because that's why Reddit I think won't really age ever or get outdated, because like at the end of the day, someone's building a website, a copywriter is writing what's on there, like professionals are giving you something. It was like Reddit is just people talking. So you're actually a lot more likely to trust what people are saying on Reddit. Like that's why there's so many Reddit threads like, is this site legit? Whereas like there's been so many people making sure that this site looks legit, is usable, is accessible, is amazing, works for you, whatever. But people still want to check with people that they are, because they know there's people being paid to make this site look this way. I don't know who they are. I don't know if they're actually reliable. So I don't know if that like there's a very roundabout like way of answering, but I think
YouTube is the same way when it comes to Reddit. You know, I see all the time that YouTube is, and by the way, I think Google buying YouTube was one of the most brilliant moves ever. Not just because of the size of YouTube in terms of content, but someone very astutely pointed out that YouTube is one of the main search engines right now.
It is, yeah.
You know, if you want to like build a cabinet, you know, you'll just search it in
like
Google,
how to change your oil in your car.
How to change your oil.
Like
YouTube's got hundreds of videos on how to do it, and then exactly the comments on the YouTube threads or recipes or all of that. You know, it's not just content; it's also giving people access to ways of doing things. Mm-hmm. And answering questions. And these are average people. Like it's not like exactly.
YouTube and Reddit are just platforms for average people to teach you and talk to you about things that you might have questions about.
Yeah.
They're not. YouTube is not like we could make if a site asked for it, we could make as much content as we want about how-to videos and tutorials. But if it's branded by the company we're like making the site for, it has a very different effect than just some guy being like, this is how I use Final Cut Pro, these are my, like, this is how you do this on that, or whatever, instead of, like, Final Cut Pro coming out with, like, a video on how to do things.
Right.
Usually those videos, I don't know why, I think people just will always defer to asking people first.
Well, it reminds me of something that the show Silicon Valley spoofed when no one was understanding their main Pied Piper website. They did a whole spoof on the Microsoft Office paperclip.
Oh, yeah,
about this. But when Microsoft Office first came out, it was so confusing for people that they just created a little like cartoon paperclip to like teach you as you were going on. It just made people so mad.
Yeah.
It's like you either feel like you're not getting it at all, or you feel like you're being condescended to.
Yeah, you're being like talked down to about it. It's so funny.
Yeah, and it's so true. Because it's like one of the main things people never want to feel is stupid or condescended to, and so many companies
sold things to. No one wants to be made to feel like you're just selling something to them. So it's really hard. I think like something that's definitely hard to deal with like working with in my industry or like my role is like, well, actually it's not hard. It's actually easy because I'm a user experience designer. So I will always talk about the user. I don't care. Like even whatever clients say this XYZ, we need to like push this product for whatever. I can always come back with fair, but like from a user perspective, XYZ. So that actually makes my job easier in a lot of ways. There's a lot of people that are more like on the business strategy side that have to blend the two. How are we going to convince them that what you're saying is going to be good, that's good for the user, is also going to be good for their business? That's something that I try to do when I present to clients, is not be like, so like we decided to do it this way because it's going to make it easier for a user to get from the homepage to the sign up page without having to go through too many clicks, whatever. I could say that, or I could say like, we noticed that like one of your main goals was to increase conversion, so we placed this really high up on the homepage so that like if they're in hesitation, like they'll immediately, like just frame it in a way that we've listened to them and we're making it for them, and that the user is also going to be happy. Whereas like my job, but my approach is always user first, and that's easy because I'm a user. So like I always think about what I would want, you know?
Right. I feel like Mint does that very well.
What?
Mint is very good at making you feel like it's a personalized experience.
Yeah,
for you,
and like even like little things like, I was using like TurboTax today, and they have those like micro interactions where like a loading thing where you're going to the next page or something, and like little things like it's like a loading thing and that says hang tight, you're doing great or something like that. Like those aren't condescending, they're actually really encouraging and like nice, but it's a fine line for sure, especially when you're translating very complex things on a website. Recently I was on like a medical site project, and it was like, how do we explain this like very complicated like science behind this in a way that like people will still trust it, because we don't want to dumb it down too much so that people are like, what even is it? Like I don't trust it because it's medical, like, you know, people, but we also need to make it understandable. So it's both. Like I don't really work in copywriting. That's a big part of that's copywriting. I think that's like it's so hard to be a good copywriter. I think what I focus on is are we differentiating the main button from the secondary buttons? If sign up's the most important thing, should we make it a different color to like other buttons that might be like learn more, read more? Like that's the kind of stuff that I think about, is like accessibility too. Like if we're using, I could like nerd out about this forever, but yeah.
Well, what you talked about with regards to the TurboTax, you know, phrases in between the things, I experienced exactly that with Shazam the other day, and you would appreciate this, because I was Shazamming one of the bands at Coachella to see if they could catch like a live thing of it, and I kind of knew that I wasn't really going to catch it, but I was watching it go through it, and I was like listening, and it's like still listening.
Yeah,
still listening.
yeah.
It's like
can't get it.
He's gonna try some more, gonna try a little longer, and then finally it was like, I'm sorry, I couldn't get it.
No, it makes such a difference, and like
instead of being like, can you move closer, or can you turn on your thing, or like you do something, it's like, I'm sorry, like the app, I'm failing you, I can't do it.
And instead of just being like, I'm listening the whole time and not changing the text, you would have thought it was like bugging or like froze or like, well, this sucks. But the fact that it's like, no, it's awake, it's trying.
Yeah.
It just can't. Like, that stuff makes such a difference.
Yeah.
There's this like thing that big like a lingo term is like moments of delight is like a thing. So it's like if you're signing up for let's say you signed up, there's this app called Lake that's like a coloring app. It's really nice. It's like a coloring, literally like it gives you like a black and white picture, and you can like put colors and like tap on it, colors it in.
Nice.
And while you're signing up, you put your email, you put whatever, and then you click on the images that you like so that it can like start giving you that genre. So it's like, what genre are you into? And then when you tap on that genre, which is actually like the thing that will take you to the next page, it colors it in for you as like a success state of like, we got your input, and like it's like a moment of delight of like, now it's like you get a moment of like, you did something right, you clicked on this thing, we're going to reward you with this animation, and then you go to the next page, and then you tap on like the image, another image that you like, and it like will move or something, like the person will like, if it's a picture of a person, like blink, or like it'll go like this. Like those are really, really important. And they're so subtle, and no one really thinks about that when you're thinking about like good user experience, but like that stuff it all really matters. Like, what little things can we do during things that are kind of shitty processes, like signing up, onboarding, but what are little things we can do to make someone excited? Or like with a finance app, it's like put in your information, like we're almost there, like one last step, or like a little thing of like something filling up as it turns to the next page, or those are all really important.
You know what I think is also like the Rolls Royce of what we're talking about also is how Google changes its homepage. Like the doodles to say like, you'll turn on Google, and it's like all the letters are like, spooky, like, cobwebby, or like it'll be like if like a Frankenstein's monster, and it'll be like, you'll click on it and be like, Mary Shelley, who wrote Frankenstein, was born today.
Yeah.
So, but then they're also very good at like picking like, obscure, like, this Peruvian, physicist who like, was the first like trans person to like, work at a major university.
Yeah.
So
like super obscure, like.
Exactly. So even though it's not functional.
Yeah.
when we talk about a company like Google that is so, established, even they are thinking of ways, how can we freshen up our image and our experience for people, coming in for the first time, maybe.
100%. An industry or something that I was interested in for like a hot sec and then I wasn't, was voice user interface.
Mm-hmm.
So like
Siri and
user
Alexa?
experience for like Siri and Alexa and stuff, because you can't have those moments of delight with voice user interface. Like our Google Home does that, like diddle-ding when it like wakes up. Like maybe that is part of it, or like, you can change their accents. You can do a bunch of other things, but like how can we? But it's still pretty like meh. Like the whole experience is pretty meh. I think it's like, is it as good as can be, or will we get to a point where like we can really, really make that experience seamless and smooth and whatever? Because like when they say like repeat that again, you're like, oh, shut up, like I don't want to. Like it's so much more like it's so hard. But yeah, I think it's an interesting experience. I did one project on it, which is why I at my last company, which is why I was interested in it for a little bit. But then I was like, this looks hard.
What do you plan on learning more in this role, and how do you plan on growing what you do?
Definitely. Well, I've been here for a year at this company, and it's like a big company, and we have very impressive clients, and like I just want to get better at what I'm doing, and I think I'm getting good at it, and like it's very like technical. It's like a mix of like both creative and technical. And I think that's really good, because I think you need to have a solid understanding of like, it's not just about, I've learned so much already. It's like, it's not just about getting from page A to page B. It's like, what does the search results page look like? Like, how does that functionality work? Some search results pages are so bad because they haven't done a good job of tagging their content properly. And so, or like just little things, you mistype a word. What happens if you mistype a word? Are they going to say no results for that? Or are they going to try to give you results based on what they think you typed? And they're still going to give you a suggestion for that. Like there's so many things that I had never thought about of like what makes an experience good. And I think there's still a lot that I need to like master. So it's less about like learning new things. It's more just about like getting better at the things I'm learning right now. And like I've worked on like a bunch of sites right now. I've never worked as like the sole point person on like a massive site, but we've worked on massive sites before, like sites that have like multiple countries, multiple sections, like as in like you're currently browsing the like, let's say it's like a Coca-Cola website, and like you're currently browsing this brand of Coca-Cola, switch to this brand. And like we've done sites like that before, and they're like monsters of sites, and it's like so interesting. Like I'd like to maybe one day work on a project like that, and at the end be like, damn, I did that. Like I worked on that. Now what I've been working on is like small to medium sites, which are still hard, don't get me wrong, because there's a lot involved. Like you go on a page and you see there's like links to a bunch of different pages. Okay, how can we make those links better? Like, should they be hyperlinks? Should they be thick cards where you link out to where there's an image? So much.
Wow.
There's so much still that I need to get better at, but
so
it's a fascinating field.
Bigger websites, monster websites, bigger challenges, apps.
Yeah. I used to. This company was my first time really working on websites, because before I was doing like microsites, which is like, I guess I did website, but like, or like more apps, or like Snapchat lenses, like AR, like stuff like that, which I think I would be interested in maybe doing more of one day. Like I really did like, I think AR is like gonna be a thing still. Like I know a lot of people are like skeptical, but it's already a big thing, but I think it's gonna continue and like be more of something we use day to day. So I was always interested in that, but right now I'm really happy where I am, where it's like I'm working on like the center of it, which is like websites for like important things, like finance websites, like things that people are actually using and like are having difficulty using. Like how can we,
I do. Well, that's exciting.
I really like it.
I'm so glad you shared all of that with us, and hopefully you'll come back and tell us more about the bigger websites that you're working on down the road.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming by, Yaz.
Thank you. This is so fun. Was that an hour?
It's about an hour, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Let me see how close to an hour I got it. Yeah.
Really?
52 minutes. 58 minutes.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
It didn't feel that long.